The Euros is finally almost upon us, but who will be lining up for some of the biggest teams across the continent? First up, I'm taking a look at France and who I think should be in their starting 11 this summer. Now, previously, Didier Deschamps has played with 3 at the back, 2 up front, etc. But looking at their most recent friendlies at the point of filming, we are going to go with a 4-2-3-1 formation. So first up, we will start with the goalkeeper. And of course, it has got to be Hugo Lloris. Now, despite being 34 years of age, Lloris is still France's main goalkeeper. And whilst Mike Maignan has been good for Lille, I do feel that Lloris's experience will 100% trump anything else. At the end of the day, he has featured in all of the friendlies so far. He is, of course, France's captain, and I cannot see any of that changing anytime soon. So he is definitely in that starting 11. Moving over to right back now, and he was the right back at the World Cup final, and he will still be the right back. It is Benjamin Pavard. Now, I know with Bayern Munich, he has spoken a little bit about how he wants to be playing more as a centre back. He wants a little bit more game time in that position, but he's happy to play wherever he needs to play to be a success. And that position for France is 100% at right back. Pavard's story is a really great one. So he was pretty much unknown in his country, but then within 8 months, he became this absolute superstar. He, of course, lifted the World Cup back in Russia in 2018, and do not forget that amazing goal that he scored against Argentina for his country. He's a great additional attacking threat, and I think that's why he's probably better suited to more of a wider role. So far with Bayern Munich this season, he has been excellent. And when you look at the other options that France have, I cannot really see anybody actually challenging him for that right back position. So again, he is in my starting 11. Looking at who Deschamps will be having as his centre-back pairing, and when you look at who has been playing in some of the friendlies recently, we have seen a lot of Real Madrid's Raphael Varane and PSG's Presnel Kimpembe, and I cannot see this changing. Whilst it would be great to see some of the other defensive options that France do have, and I'm sure maybe we will see them as the tournament goes on, I don't think anybody can rival that partnership that those two players have. They work really, really well together, they have experience playing together, and I think that this will be really, really important in the Euros. Despite domestically things being quite rocky for Varane, as he reportedly could be departing from Real Madrid, he still has that experience for club and country, great control and a great track record. Kimpembe is of course a left-footed defender and has been a big part of this impressive PSG team this year that we have seen that could be lifting the Champions League trophy, and I think he will work really well alongside Varane. Looking at other options, there is of course Aymeric Laporte. Now, he hasn't really had enough game time with Manchester City in my opinion, of course with the arrival of Ruben Diaz and him pairing up really, really well with John Stones at the Etihad. So I'm not too sure that he would be in the starting 11. And then, of course, you've got Dayot Upamecano, an absolute talent, don't get me wrong, but a little bit young and maybe inexperienced in the big competitions. So I think he will be one for the future. Maybe we'll see these players in the tournament, but like I say, my starting 11 has to be Varane and Kimpembe. Looking at another Bayern Munich player now as we go to left back, and it has to be Lucas Hernandez. Now, luckily for him, I guess, Alphonso Davies was injured this season for Bayern Munich, which meant that Hernandez has been able to get a little bit of game time in that left back position and kind of battle with him for that position. But he's also had some game time as centre-back as well. As much as I personally do admire Ferland Mendy, and we have seen Lucas Digne being given a couple of opportunities, I still see Hernandez as dominating this position of the pitch. Now, Hernandez has expressed his frustrations about maybe not getting enough game time for Bayern Munich, but he's already made over 30 appearances for the club this season, so I don't think that's anything to worry about. And if France are looking for an aggressive attacking left-back that can drive the ball forward and create some chances, Lucas Hernandez is the man for the job. Heading into France's midfield now, and there are so many different options and combinations for this one, but for me personally, I have gone with Paul Pogba and N'Golo Kante. Now, like I say, there are lots of different options. Of course, there's Adrien Rabiot. His attitude seems to have changed recently, and he has had a couple of appearances for his country. Then there is Houssem Aouar, an absolute talent. He hasn't really featured that much. Maybe he will go to the competition and feature a couple of times, I'm not too sure. Of course, there is Tanguy Ndombele as well, but for me personally, I feel like Pogba and Kante have worked really well together in the past, and they will work well together in this starting 11. When it comes to Kante, of course, people are going to argue that he's over the hill, he's in decline, he's not as good as he once was, but for me personally, when I still see him playing for the French national team, he can pull out an elite performance when needed, and I think he's the type of player that France will really, really struggle to replace when he does eventually hang up his boots. Regarding Paul Pogba, I feel like he has definitely done enough, especially towards the latter end of this season. Now, of course, he has had a couple of injury issues that he's managed to overcome, and when you look at his performances for Manchester United, especially recently, they've been really impressive. He's actually managed to save the Reds from a couple of blunders, and you could argue that he's actually won a couple of games for them with his performances. And then when you pair this with his performances for the French national team, he barely seems to put a foot wrong. He's so impressive, and like I say, when you combine this with Kante and the creativity that he also provides, I think that these two will be unstoppable, and that is why they are in my starting 11. Now, looking at the attacking options for France, and you're almost spoilt for choice really, so let's kick things off with the right wing, and I have gone for Bayern Munich's Kingsley Coman. Now, I know that he does normally play on the left, but he does also play on the right for Bayern Munich as well, and I think that he will be a really good fit in this position. Now, I do know that Ousmane Dembele has really tried to state his case for this position. He's had a couple of features in some recent friendlies, and he's been really good, but when you look at his form and Coman's form over the whole season, I think that you do have to go with Coman on this one. He is a young, exciting talent, and I feel like all the experience that he's already got with Bayern Munich will really come in handy. I think he'll help balance the squad, and he will really provide some ferocity on that right wing. Looking at a central position of kind of a second striker now, and I've got to go with Antoine Griezmann. This is a no-brainer. At the end of the day, this is a position that he's comfortable in. It's a position that he performs really well in, and despite the fact that some people may critique him with his form with Barcelona, when it comes to him playing for the French national team in this position, he very rarely disappoints. I think the fact that this season people could argue that his form with Barcelona has improved will definitely help with his self-confidence. However, I feel like with or without this self-confidence with Barcelona, he will still be absolutely brilliant for France. I mean, you look at his laser focus with the team, you look at some of the incredible goals that he's already scored for France, he is just unstoppable, and there is no doubt in my mind that he will be in this starting 11. Looking at the left wing now, and I have gone for Kylian Mbappe. Now, I know he could take up that position as a centre forward, but he's played on the left and the right wing for France previously, and he has still been absolutely prolific. Looking at his form of late, it doesn't really seem to matter wherever you put Mbappe, he's still going to have a brilliant game, and I think putting him on this left wing also frees up that space for a centre forward and another option for goals basically. And I think when you look at that left wing, there's nobody else apart from Coman, of course, who we put on the right. There's nobody else really that I think would challenge for that spot and would even rival Mbappe. I feel like this is the one player that I do not have to convince you all why he should be in this starting 11. At the end of the day, Kylian Mbappe is one of, if not the greatest footballer on the planet at the moment. And when you look at his form on the left wing with PSG, at the time of filming, he's had 17 appearances and he scored 17 goals in this position. Need I say more? And finally, last but not least, it is the striker. Of course, I could have gone with one or two different options. Of course, I could have put Mbappe in this. There has, of course, also been Wissam Ben Yedder, who was featured a couple of times, but it's got to be Olivier Giroud. Giroud is kind of similar to Kante in that they do play together for Chelsea, and both have kind of had the spotlight shone on them that they may be in decline or they may be not as good as they once were. But the thing with Giroud, he is just such an interesting paradox. He's a player that sometimes can find himself on the bench for Chelsea, but then for the French national team, he is just absolutely flying and acts as a facilitator to Griezmann and Mbappe. Looking at the other options, I did mention Yedder. I do not think that he's on the same level as Giroud, to be honest. And then, of course, there is Anthony Martial. Now, it seems like he will not be playing in the tournament because he does seem to have an injury at the moment, but even if he didn't have the injury, I would definitely not be putting him in ahead of Giroud. Looking at Martial, just 7 goals in over 30 appearances simply is not good enough. Now, I know that Giroud only has 11 goals, but he's featured less than Martial, and also some of the goals that he has scored have been so important. Of course, you've got those 4 against Sevilla in the group stage of the Champions League, and of course I'm going to mention that bicycle kick against Atletico Madrid. This says to me that Giroud can certainly step up to the plate when needed and provide his team with some vital goals, and this is exactly why he has to be in the starting 11. So that is my starting 11 for France in the Euros this summer. Of course, not forgetting the likes of Houssem Aouar, Eduardo Camavinga, Thomas Lemar, etc. All great players, but for me, this is the 11 that Deschamps has to go with. As always, let us know in the comment section what you think. Who would be in your starting 11? As always, check out all the other content that we've got here, and until next time, I will see you all later.